So Pope Francis has created 21 new cardinals, 18 of which are going to be cardinal electors, possibly in the next conclave. Very interesting selection. And there are some here who are simple priests, the head of the Salesians, who worked with Pope Francis personally in Buenos Aires. So you've got, a lot of people that have worked personally with Pope Francis now being elevated to cardinals. So I just thought I'd take you through some of the profile of these cardinals. I was working on a series on the cardinals, so I'm going to have to redo that now because we insert these men into the list. And it's a fascinating time to be Catholic. I know I do see some comments on my channel, very pessimistic. A Catholic can never be pessimistic. A Christian, a true Christian, we can't be pessimistic. Now, I'm not naive to what is going on in Rome. We're not naive to the processes, the stuff that Pope Francis is doing. And to say that I'm naive, I'm not. I know we know what's going on, but sometimes when you do reform, sometimes when you set out to reform something, there is the law of unintended consequences. So, our Lord is in the midst of everything that's happening in the church at this moment in time. And if he wanted to, with this like that, he could change things. But he is allowing these things to happen in the church to form us, to test us, who knows. So it's a fascinating time to be Catholic. Because, if you know Christ, if you've encountered him, you can't be sad. We have to give hope, but we'll see where this lands. And I just thought it's fascinating to see the list of men being created cardinals on the 30th of September. Coincidentally, that's a date that I had already planned for a retreat, so we'd be praying for them. And just here's an overview of these cardinals, and the average age is in the low 60s, so they'll be around for practically another 2 decades in the College of Cardinals as electoral cardinals. And some are very young. You have the auxiliary Bishop of Lisbon, who's 49. Very interesting to see these who is Pope Francis picked. But I suppose I'll go deeper into their profiles as over the next couple of weeks as I take time to investigate more. Anyway, God bless you. Take care. Bye bye. So today Pope Francis has announced a new consistory that will happen on the 30th of September this year. And there will be 21 new cardinals created, of which 18 will be electoral cardinals. Now, I've pulled up the list of the electoral cardinals, which are 18. And if we look at the average age, we're looking at 62. But if we exclude the 2 oldest cardinals, which happen to be nuncios, the average age of the cardinals, the 16 youngest cardinals, have an average age of 61. And generally speaking, when popes are elected, they tend to be in their 60s. I know Pope John the 23rd and Pope Francis, kind of the exceptions lately. But generally speaking, if you look back over the centuries, cardinals, popes are generally in their 60s when they're elected. So Pope Francis has left the college a batch of 16 cardinals for the next 18 years who will be part of the electoral college, including 2 Jesuits. So I just thought we'd go through some of the people that are being elected here, just so that we can become familiar with them. And we're going to start off with Bishop Robert Francis Provost. He's an American, US-born prelate who served as prefect for the dicastery of bishops since April 12, 2023. Having been appointed in January 2023. He was born in Chicago. He's an Augustinian, and he was bishop of Chiclayo. So he was a bishop in Peru. He was a bishop in Peru. So he speaks Spanish, which is very important. That's why we have Cardinal Farrell in there, because he also speaks Spanish. So it's interesting to see this American bishop who is an Augustinian being made a cardinal. So it's something to note. And he is 67 years old. So that's Bishop Robert Francis Prevost. Next bishop that would be made cardinal is Bishop Claudio Gugerotti. Bishop Claudio Gugerotti was born in 7th of October 1955. He's 67 years old. And he was born in Verona, and he was ordained a priest in the Diocese of Verona. He's earned degrees in Eastern languages and literature on the sacred liturgy. And Pope Benedict appointed him Apostolic Nuncio to Belarus. Pope Francis made him Apostolic Nuncio to Ukraine. He was Apostolic Nuncio to Great Britain up until 2022, until Pope Francis is appointed him Prefect for the Dicastery of Eastern Churches. Now, why is he important? Because he was Apostolic Nuncio in Belarus and Ukraine, and obviously the Pope is trying to tap into some of his knowledge, and never know how he will plan out. But that's Bishop Claudio. Next, we have, very controversial these days, Bishop Victor Manuel Fernandez. And I'm not really going to go into any more about him, because there's been ample amount of stuff being told about him in the media. He's age 60, so he will almost certainly be in the next conclave or the one after it, and who knows. He's Argentinian, and it's interesting to see how he will fare in this new job as being cardinal and prefect for the dicastery for the doctrine of faith, following the footsteps of Cardinal Muller, following the footsteps of Cardinal Ratzinger, Pope Benedict, and he will be a key figure in this year's synod in Rome. He'll be present there along with Cardinal Muller, who Pope Francis has invited to the synod as well. So interesting. So no surprises at all that he's been created a cardinal in September before the synod. Next we have Bishop Christophe Pierre. He was born in 1946. And he's a part of he was a nuncio for many years: Haiti, Uganda, Mexico, United States. Very important. He was nuncio, I believe, in the United States after Vigano. So, Pope Francis keeping ex-US nuncio. He's age 77, very close to him in the appointments. We have then Bishop Emile Paul Zerich. He's a Swiss prelate, and he spent much of his career as nuncio, and he is 76, and in 2017 Pope Francis named him nuncio to Italy and San Marino. He was the first non-Italian ever to hold the position of apostolic nuncio in Italy. Interesting. Next we have Bishop Pier Battista Pizzaballa. He is the only bishop that I've personally met him in Rome when he was going to Pope Francis and the Patriarch of Constantinople, Bartholomew, were doing a ceremony in the Vatican, and he was invited. He is 58 years old, and he has spent a lot of his time in Jerusalem, where he is the Latin Patriarch of Jerusalem with the title Archbishop of Verbe. So in 2022, Pizzaballa was appointed Latin Patriarch of Jerusalem by Pope Francis, and Pope Francis bestowed Patriarch Pizzaballa with the pallium, a symbol of authority and metropolitan archbishop, and his unity with the Pope. So interesting choice. Well known personally with the Pope. Well known man. He's a Franciscan. Next we have Stephen Brislin. There isn't much on Wikipedia about him. He is 66 years old, and he is a prelate a South African prelate of the Roman Catholic Church. Interesting, he's in the Diocese of Kroonstad, and he is from Flemish descent, that is Afrikaans descent. So it's interesting to see him appointed cardinal. We have then Angel Sixto Rossi. He, as far as I'm aware, he's a Jesuit from Argentina. So he is 64 years old and obviously extremely well known to Pope Francis. They were both Jesuits together. Obviously different eras, but interesting choice, and not surprising that we see another Argentinian being made a cardinal in this conclave. We have then Luis Jose Reda Aparcio. He's a Colombian prelate who is Metropolitan Archbishop of Bogota, and he is 61 years old. He was named bishop by Pope Benedict and appointed Archbishop of Popayan in 2018, and then in 2020 he was appointed Archbishop of Bogota by Pope Francis. So he has been outspoken supporter of peace agreement of 2016 between the government and Colombia and the FARC rebels, and protested against the assassination of social leaders. So interesting man, very interesting. Next we have Grzegorz Risch. He is a Polish bishop. He used to be auxiliary bishop of Krakow, and he's 59 years old, and he is well known in the Vatican. He's an excellent diplomat. He's an excellent negotiator, and he gets sent in to clean up messes in some dioceses. So he's well known to Pope Francis and well known in Rome. He did his in 2000 he did a complete dissertation on Jan Hus. So it's interesting to see this man being made a cardinal. The next cardinal, very famous, people, it doesn't have a Wikipedia page yet, is Bishop Stefan Emilio Martin Mula. So people will remember he was part of the delegation when Pope Francis kissed the leaders, I believe in Sudan. So interesting that Pope Francis has elevated this Sudanese bishop to become a cardinal. The next person is Jose Cobocano. He is from Spain, and he was auxiliary bishop of Madrid. In June 2023, Pope Francis named him Metropolitan Archbishop of Madrid. He is 57 years old, so very young archbishop, very young cardinal now to be named. And in 2019, he was made member of Migration Department, and in 2020 of the Episcopal Commission of Social, Pastoral and Human Promotion. So that's Archbishop Jose Cobocano. Next one we have Protase Rugambwa. He was born in 1960. He's Tanzanian, and he is currently the official of the Congregation of the Evangelization of Peoples. In July 2023, Pope Francis announced plans to make him a cardinal, which will happen this September. And he is Archbishop Cojunctor of Tabora. That's what his last position was. So he is 63 years old. The next one we have is Sebastian Francis. He's a Malaysian prelate, and he's 71 years old, and he's Bishop of Penang in Malaysia, which has a large Chinese community, where my sister-in-law happens to come from. In 2012, Pope Benedict appointed Francis as the 5th bishop of the Diocese of Penang, so where there's about 10,000 Catholics. So interesting to see Pope Francis tapping him as cardinal. The next bishop we have is Bishop Stephen Cho, and he is he's a Jesuit, and he's a Jesuit in Hong Kong. So very, very interesting that this young man, 63 in relative terms, young man, is now the Bishop of Hong Kong. He is going to be made cardinal, and without a doubt, Pope Francis is tapping this Jesuit to strengthen Chinese relations. So very interesting situation. Next we have Bishop Francois Javier Bustillo. He's another Franciscan. He's a Spanish prelate and has been Bishop of Ajaccio in Corsica since 2021. And he's a member of the Conventual Franciscans. So he is age 54. So interesting. In 2022, Pope Francis gave an Italian language version of Bustillo's book Witnesses, Not Officials, to each of the priests attending the Chrism Mass in St. Peter's Basilica. So Pope Francis knows this Spanish prelate very well. Very well. Next we have Americo Aguiar. Americo Manuel Alves Aguiar. He is a Portuguese bishop. He's an auxiliary bishop of Lisbon. So it's very interesting. He's not even he doesn't have a diocese yet. He's the auxiliary bishop of Lisbon. So interesting to see that Pope Francis has tapped the auxiliary bishop of Lisbon, who, what age is he? Let me see what he's 49 years old for a very, very young bishop. An auxiliary bishop, 49, to be made cardinal. Interesting. And lastly, we have Ángel Fernández Artime. He's a Spanish Catholic of the Salesians of Don Bosco. And he isn't even a bishop. Yeah, he isn't even a bishop. So, yeah. Let me just see his career here. He is a member of the Salesian province of Leon. Fernandez was a member of the provincial council and vice provincial. Between 2000 and 2006, he was superior of the province. He was selected to team with organizers of the 26th General Chapter in Rome, 2008. In 2009, he was elected as provincial to the Argentine South, with headquarters in Buenos Aires. Okay, so he's well known to Pope Francis. After his designation as new position of provincial in Sevilla, Spain, he was elected to the General Council as the new rector major. Fernandez worked with Cardinal Jorge Maria Bergoglio in Buenos Aires, who later became Pope Francis. As the new superior of the order, he presided at the opening of the world celebrations of the 2000th birthday of St. John Bosco in 2014. So he's not even a bishop. Well known to Pope Francis, and now he's being fast-tracked up to become possible Pope. And he's 62 years old. So these are some of the... Now, there are some other ones here. You have three more. Agustino Marchetto, Diego Rafael Padron Sanchez, and Luis Pascal. These are three bishops that are over the age of 80 and are not eligible to vote in the next conclave. So that's just an overview of the 18 bishops. Well, they're not all bishops yet. The 18 clerics, really, that are going to be made cardinals in the next conclave.